All right, welcome to the Krueg Show on a Thursday, and who better to talk Niners Eagles with than the man himself, Ike Reese. You know, caught him on IP years ago, Ike at Night. He's worked with Howard Eskin. He's worked with Michael Barkan. He's all over WIP. If you know IP radio, you know Ike Reese. Ike, good to see you, man. Happy New Year, and thanks for stopping by and helping us preview this thing.
No doubt about it, Larry. Thank you. It's only 4 football towns that are actually still talking about active football teams. It's great to be one of them, and I'm sure you feel the same way about the 49ers.
No question about it. Well, before we get into the Eagles and the Niners, man, let's talk about you and your career, because you were a Pro Bowl player, really good football player, and then obviously your career's done, and some guys want to go into media, but they want to do TV and they don't want to get their hands dirty. Other people, go into like sports radio in a town like Philadelphia for a station like WIP, and I've done shows in those studios. A lot of good people there. It's a very passionate fan base, and you cannot be a phony because they will absolutely call you out like day one.
Yeah.
And I think of so many of the great radio guys in this country have come out of that market. What's it been like transitioning from NFL player to, a full-time radio talk show host?
It's been everything and more that I dreamed it would be. Larry, and I'm not when I say I've been fortunate enough to have 2 dream jobs, I really do mean that. Obviously as a kid, as an athlete, you dream of playing in the NBA or in the MLB or in the NFL. And as you get older, you realize where your talents are best suited. And I was fortunate enough to play Division I ball at Michigan State. As you can see, right there, you can see that. Michigan State.
Spartans.
Love my Spartans.
Draymond Green, one of our favorites out here.
Yeah, and I was even more fortunate to be drafted into the NFL by the Eagles and play the 9 years that I played. I'm a classic overachiever. I know exactly who I am who I was as a player, but I felt like I got the most out of my talent as a player, and I was able to play 9 years and play alongside a lot of great players, played for a great coach, several great coaches, as a matter of fact, during my time in Philadelphia. And you bring up the media aspect, the post-career. I think playing in Philadelphia sort of helped me and ease my transition into my second career. And it's funny because I went to school and I thought I'd be a talking head on TV.
Right.
And you do the studio shows as an analyst and all that type of stuff. That's what I was envisioning. But somehow I bumped into talk radio here in Philadelphia. And back then it was 610 WIP, as I'm pretty sure you remember.
Yep.
610 WIP. And it's been sort of a love affair ever since. I can remember hearing Angelo Cataldi for the first time on my way into work, yelling about the Eagles and complaining about the Eagles. And I can remember listening to Howard Eskin in the afternoons, in the 5 o'clock hour when I was leaving practice, coming home. And I would hear, at that time, Howard complaining about Allen Iverson and the Sixers. So, and the thing that drew me in was the back and forth with the callers. And so the sports fans here are so passionate and knowledgeable. It became almost like I had to listen every day. It was like I was glutton for punishment earlier in my career to listen. But it turned me on to sports talk radio. And more importantly, it turned me on to what it's like to be a sports fan in the Northeast. I grew up in the Midwest in Cincinnati. And, Bengal fan, Reds fan, Bearcats, Xavier Musketeers. Ohio State was the football team you really rooted for, But coming out here and being in Philadelphia, it was eye-opening that how much they cared about their sports teams. And for some reason, I found that admirable. I really did, and it almost made me want to. It made me seek their approval. It made me want to play hard, so that I wouldn't be on the wrong end of those phone calls into WIP.
Exactly.
And believe me, early in my career, it was more of us on the wrong end of those phone calls about the Eagles. But eventually, I found my way to WIP, and I've worked with a lot of great people. I've been there 15 years, and it's the best decision I've ever made. You know, I played in Atlanta for 2 years, but I like to say this: I've never left Philadelphia. I got drafted here in 1998, and I've been here ever since. The love affair, the marriage has been there for almost 25 years now.
Ray Rhodes? Who was it
Yeah,
that
that's
picked?
who drafted me. Yep, that was my first coach, Ray
He was
Rhodes,
real, man. He
1998.
was real. Ray
Yeah,
Rhodes. Ray Rhodes was a football genius. Not only did he coach Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson, Dwight Hicks, and all those Niner players, and obviously was a good player in his own right. But Ray Rhodes had a great eye for defensive backfield talent. And
yeah,
so, like, he drafted some really good defensive backs in those years that he was in Philly. I mean, I always thought that the Niners' secret to their dynasty was Ray Rhodes on the defensive side and Bob McKittrick on the offensive side, because they had the two toughest positions on the field to coordinate, the secondary and the O line. And they had outstanding teachers, but great eyes for talent. And so they didn't have to use high picks on O linemen. They really didn't
right.
have to use high picks on DBs. And to me, that was the key to their dynasty.
No, you're absolutely right. And just think about some of the DBs that Ray brought in. Well, he drafted Bobby Taylor.
Bobby
He
Taylor out of Notre
he,
Dame, right?
he drafted Brian Dawkins
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
um, as a safety. He brought in Troy Vincent coming off a torn ACL out of Miami. He brought him in as a free agent here in Philadelphia. And here's the one that people don't really remember or realize. It happened my rookie year. We picked up Al Harris.
From the
Uh,
Bears.
yeah, from Tampa Bay.
Okay.
He got drafted by Tampa Bay, and Al Harris was a cornerback that played with us for 5 years, and then he went on to Green Bay and had an even better career in Green Bay as a starter. Here he was just the third cornerback because Bobby and Troy were the starters. But when you talk about an eye for talent and developing guys, Ray Rhodes and Emmett Thomas, they saw something in Al Harris, who was a sixth-round draft pick that they picked up off of waivers from Tampa, and they turned him into not only a starting cornerback but a Pro Bowl cornerback in his career. So, yeah, that's just some of the players that they drafted in that secondary.
Oh man, some good memories there. Okay, you mentioned I mentioned that you worked with Michael Barkan
Yeah.
and Howard Eskin. How would you compare those guys? I mean, Barkan had a huge career he's had a huge career on television there, and Eskin, in some ways, is one of the the forefathers of what we do, right? I mean, this guy's. I made a bet with him when I had him as a guest on my KMBR show years ago when the Niners rolled in and played the Eagles. I think it was 2019. And he said, if the Eagles lose this game to the Niners, I'll walk to San Francisco. And
I
sure
remember
enough,
that. I remember that. I remember that.
needless to say, Howard didn't walk to San
Of
Francisco, but
course.
it made for good radio. Two giants in the city of Philadelphia. What was it like working with those guys?
What you're talking about, like you said, two giants. Howard Eskin is Philadelphia, born and raised. Um, you talk about one of the forefathers of this business. He'll let you know he was the first sports talk radio host in Philadelphia. He'll let you know that. And he's aptly nicknamed the King, who I believe Pete Rose gave him that name. I believe Pete Rose gave him that nickname as the King. And so for what we do here on radio, yeah, he has to be the guy that you have to look to sort of at least gave this thing a lifeline and gave it a pulse in the beginning and helped it grow to what it has grown into now. and he's still around. He hasn't changed. He's gotten older. He's gotten older. His bite may not be as strong, but the bark is just as loud as it's ever been. It's just as loud as it's ever been. So, and working with Howard, I'll tell you this. It taught me to, have tough skin, have conviction in your beliefs, and be able to, stand up for yourself. Working with Howard, he was going to challenge you. And I thought he sort of brought a side out of me that I didn't even know I had in me, only because he challenged me for the 2 years that we worked together. So I definitely take that experience and have applied it to the rest of my career with Howard. But you can't talk about Philadelphia sports talk radio or sports in general without bringing up Howard Eskin. He is certainly Philadelphia. And Michael Barkan, who is obviously not originally from Philadelphia, but has been here 30 plus years and has been a fixture in the sports scene. Worked with him for 5 years on the Mike and Ike show, and had worked with Michael for years while I was a player on television over there at Comcast. And he's always been a dear friend and a close friend and a mentor for me. I always like to say, the one thing I always took away from Michael B was that there's something about being likable, right? There's something about having a comfort level with your audience that they enjoy your conversation, your opinion, listening to you. And so while we all get caught up in wanting to be right all the time, and we'll fight tooth and nail to argue our side of a debate, I've always felt that Michael B had a way of doing things that he didn't offend people, right? He made people like him. And so I tried to take some of that and have fun with what I do, because I always think he has fun and there's a joy that he finds in the job that he does that comes across on the television screen. So I definitely cherish my 5 years I got a chance to work with him, because I think it brought us closer as just peers in this business. And so by him being a little bit older than I am, he's always been like a big brother to me in this business.
We're talking to Ike Reese, former Eagle linebacker, former Pro Bowler, and now a radio star on the Krueg show here. George Perlis, Nick Saban, how much of those guys, what do those guys do for you at Michigan State to make you the player that you became? Because, I mean, you're talking about some legendary coaches there.
Are you talking about the beginning there? That's who helped shape who I became as a football player. Obviously, George Perlis giving me an opportunity by offering me a scholarship at Michigan State. I had 2 offers, Michigan State and the University of Cincinnati. And John Harbaugh still hasn't forgiven me for not accepting that scholarship in Cincinnati, because he was my recruiter when I was in high school. Yeah, he recruited me when I was in high school. He was at the University of Cincinnati. But George Perlis giving a kid an opportunity out of Cincinnati. I played 1 year in high school, and so he was like the first coach I had that was hard on me, that was tough on me, right? That pushed me, and I certainly appreciated what he taught me early in my career. And I wish I had got a chance to play for him longer, but just when I was getting started, he got fired at Michigan State, and Nick Saban came in. And I'll always be in debt to the late, great George Perlis for him giving me the opportunity to be at Michigan State, because without that, I don't know if any of this is possible, what I've achieved in my life. So I definitely give thanks to him. And then Nick, I got a chance to play for Nick for 3 years. And Coach, Coach had the ability to motivate you because you didn't want to disappoint him. You didn't want to disappoint him. And I think more importantly, you didn't want to be in the eye of his storm if he wasn't happy. So he spent a lot of time on the defensive side of the ball, even though he was the head coach. And he taught me how to be a a student of the game, because he demanded more out of you than just the routine stuff like going to make a tackle. He wanted you to understand the entire defense and what everybody else was doing around you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my defensive coordinator at that time, Dean Pease, who just retired,
Yeah,
50
great
years in the
coach.
game of football. Yeah, he was my defensive coordinator and at Michigan State for those 3 years. And between he and Coach Saban, there's so much knowledge there about the game of football. I just wanted to soak up as much of it as I could. And because they expected a lot out of me, part of my motivation was not wanting to disappoint either one of those guys. So that sort of drove me to be the player that I was.
Yeah.
And I appreciate them for that, because sometimes as athletes, you don't really know what your ceiling is.
Right.
You often need someone to help you realize that and push you to bring that out of you. And they certainly brought that out of me. And without them, I don't think I'm a draft prospect. I don't think I'm an NFL prospect without those guys.
Well, you became a Pro Bowler, and in a lot of ways, you're a pioneer in a lot of ways, in that, you look at the NFL right now, there's a lot of guys who are running around at linebacker who are 220, 225
Yeah.
and are fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day about this. It's like, it wasn't that long ago that, like, Matt Millen and had the neck roll, and these guys were, like almost like D linemen. Now, if you're a 4'7" linebacker, you're going to be picked on and probably forced off the field on third down. It's like, you really got to be 4'5" to be a real run with the athletes in today's game. And this is where I want to get your thoughts on the Niners, because if there is a strength of their football team, it's Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, and Azeez Al-Shaair. They got 3 stacked backers there that that all run 4.5. And they got Marcelino McCrary-Ball, who's kid behind, who's on the practice squad, who runs incredibly well as well. He can't even get on the field. They got fast linebackers who shut down that second level. I saw Greenlaw close out. He was standing inside the tackle box on a hitch to Tyreek in the game against the Dolphins earlier this year. And he flew to the sideline faster than any linebacker I think I've ever seen, and just snuffed him out like a candle, and got him for like a 1-yard gain. I mean, it was absolutely breathtaking to watch. The speed of the game, and especially at linebacker, you've seen this game evolve. Like, what do you think of how the linebacker position has evolved from, the big neck roll guy to, man, you better be able to fly?
Yeah, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of today's linebackers. I was told for years I was too small
Right.
to play linebacker. And Joe Banner once told me, the GM at that time, once told me that when they were drafting me, they didn't know should they play me as safety or linebacker. Because I think I was like 215, 220 pounds when I came out. And at 6'3", that doesn't look like much. So at 6'3", 220, it looks like a wide receiver or a safety. And so they didn't know whether or not I could play linebacker, but they quickly found out my hips wasn't loose enough to play safety, so they moved me to linebacker. But to your point, Larry, when you look at the 49ers linebackers and the way that they play, it's like you have 3 Derrick Brooks out there. It's like 3 Derrick Brooks type linebackers out there. And John Lynch being the GM, I'm not surprised that he wants these types of linebackers, because that's the type of backer Derrick Brooks was. So to see the way that the game has evolved, you really do need players at that second level on defense that they're tough enough and physical enough to play against the run, but more importantly, they're athletic enough and fast enough to play against the pass, whether it's against these tight ends that are like hybrid tight ends / wide receivers, or these running backs like a Christian McCaffrey that comes out of a backfield. Like, you have to be able to cover these guys man to man. And so I think the game has finally evolved to where it's about getting guys in open space in the open field and seeing if you can get a mismatch. So you have to have these linebackers slash safety guys that can fill that role, our linebackers, not as fast as the 49ers linebackers, but when you look at their build and their measurables, you can tell these are the type of linebackers that play in today's game. When you talk about TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, they are fast linebackers, not the biggest linebackers, and they're three-down guys, much like your guys, obviously not to the level of the 49ers linebackers. But nowadays, you need linebackers that can play all three downs.
The guy who I used to hate because he was, I remember him in the Super Bowl, but you know him well, David Fulcher. What would David Fulcher play in today's NFL, man? He'd be like a middle backer probably in today's
That
game.
was the first big safety I ever seen. Yeah, David Fulcher, man, 33 Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, sir.
Oh, I remember him in the Super Bowl. I just thinking to myself, wow, you got Ronnie on this side, you got Fulcher on that side, and it was an incredible, incredible Super Bowl. One of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. All right, let's get to this matchup. People listening and going, what, Krug, talk Niners, Eagles. But we got Ike here, and I got to talk ball with Ike. All right, now let's get to the matchup. Tell me about the Eagles' defense. I mean, Hargraves had a year. Fletcher Cox, we all know Fletcher Cox. They got an incredible defensive line. To me, I don't see any backups. Like Milton Williams, he could start for somebody. And the same thing with the Niner backup linemen. They all could start for. It's all a bunch of starters. And then I don't know what the hell the Saints were thinking trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Eagles. I mean, when I saw that this summer, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I just like, you got to be kidding me. Howie Roseman deserves an award for making that trade. But I think Bradbury's awesome and playing great. Slay's playing great. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's like one of my favorite players. I love him even more in the slot as a slot corner. What's the strength of the Eagle D in your mind? Who's the leader? Where's the strength?
Well, the leader on that side of the ball is probably a couple leaders. You're gonna have Fletcher is obviously the elder statesman on his defense, along with Brandon Graham. And you're talking about the strength of the defense. It's the defensive line. They're the deepest. I think when you look at this Eagles overall team and you say, what's the best position group? It's the defensive line. And to your point, you talk about there are no real backups. I mean, they went out and got Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh to add to Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, first-round draft pick Jordan Davis out of Georgia, who just anchored one of the best defenses in college football of all time with that Georgia Bulldogs defense last year. So I even mentioned Milton Williams. That's six defensive tackles that can start for any team in this league right now. Then you throw in the outside rushers, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. You got Patrick Johnson, who's the fourth defensive end out there. They really do have a rotation of guys that don't have to worry about playing most of the time more than 35 snaps a game. And so they are fresh in the fourth quarter. They aren't worn down. When it's money time in the fourth quarter, these guys can still get after you. And you mentioned the secondary. The secondary, Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Bradbury, Marcus Epps, and the rookie Reed Blankenship. Man, like the defensive front and the back end of this defense, they complement each other so well. You know, that secondary can make you hold the football 1 second longer. It gets that defensive line to you. That defensive line gets to you quick. Now that ball comes out, and now you can get interceptions. And that's why the Eagles are one of the leaders in both of those categories. They led in sacks, 70 sacks, the third most in the history of the game.
Wow.
Like, and a lot of that didn't come with blitzes and extra pressure. A lot of it just came with a four-man rush. So I honestly think the defense is the best unit overall on the team, but obviously the offense gets a lot of credit for obvious reasons. But I look at the defense and I say, man, that's how we go about winning a championship, because this defense can match up with anybody's offense. It can match up with anybody's offense.
Tell me about the big kid, Jordan Davis. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen anybody quite that big. I mean, he's just so monster. I mean, he's just naturally his walk around weight's like probably 375, and he's crazy. I'm not. He's like a futuristic athlete. I mean, he's like the Shaq of the
Yeah.
NFL. I mean, he's so crazy. And then what happened with Robert Quinn? I mean, I was standing in the Niner locker room, Ike, when it was announced that Robert Quinn had signed with the Eagles or was traded to the Eagles. And Mike McGlinchey was like, threw out an expletive like, God damn it, I'm gonna have to block that guy. But it hasn't worked out. So what's happened with Quinn and how much does Jordan Davis, how much run does he get on this front?
I tell you, to start with Jordan Davis, um, he's been working himself in and out of the lineup, right? He got banged up in the middle of the year, so he had to miss like 4 or 5 games. He had like a high ankle sprain. So I think that set him back. And I think that's when they went out and got Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph when they were missing Jordan Davis. So the benefit for Jordan Davis is that right now for this team, he needs to give you 20 great snaps. That's all he needs to give you. Preferably in short yardage situations on first down, obvious running downs. He can give you 20 snaps. Honestly, it'll be interesting in this game as much as the 49ers love to run the football. But Jordan hasn't had to be a 3-down player because of the depth that they have right now. So he's been great as an added piece to what they already have at that defensive tackle rotation. And like I said, he's been giving you 20 good plays when he's out there. He can play with full energy, chase the ball down, collapse the pocket. He's only going to get better as his future progresses. Right now, he's in a great position because he has a couple of vets in front of him that takes the pressure off of him. And when he goes out there, he knows he can just give you those plays and then come out. Now, to your point about Robert Quinn, he's another one that I think he got banged up early when he came. So I don't think he ever got comfortable in a rotation or a role in which they could use him in. I don't think they found a good role how to use him because he was in and out of the lineup. It'll be interesting. He played a few snaps last week. And I think he played in the final game of the season against the Giants. So it'll be interesting to see. They need another guy to add depth to that outside pass rush. I like Patrick Johnson, but Robert Quinn had 18 sacks last year. So there's a good football player in there somewhere. Hopefully it comes out Sunday.
The point differential for the Eagles, Ike, in the second quarter is crazy. I mean, they dominate the second quarter this year like almost no team in pro football. I'm not watching all these games. Describe what is it that what they're doing? It seems like they're getting a lead early and then they're pinning their ears back and hunting the quarterback and turning games into lopsided, one-sided games in the second quarter. Because I mean, it's they're like plus 100 or something in the second quarter scoring.
It's the weirdest thing, Larry. And most of it happened in the first half of the season. Like to literally, when a team is 8-0 and you're looking for something to complain about,
right?
You know how we are. You know how we are here in Philadelphia. It was like,
right.
Well, why can't we only score in the second quarter and we can't score in the second half? Like, what's going on here? So I don't know what it is. They were getting off to such a great start to every game. I don't know if it forces the opposing team to sort of abandon their game plan, and now the Eagles take advantage of it. But it's weird. I don't think it's intentionally, but for whatever reason, all year long, it seems like that second quarter has clearly been their strongest quarter of all the 4 quarters. And it's not because they start off slow, because I believe they've scored on either 8, is it 11? Maybe it's 11. They may have scored on 11 of their opening drives this season.
Wow.
So it's not like they don't score in the first quarter. It's that it doesn't take off until the second quarter for whatever reason. And it's the strangest thing. I have no idea. I have no real logical answer as to why that is. But it's something that we noticed like week 3 or week 4, where they would have these scoring outbursts in the second quarter. And then you would get to the second half, And because they had such a big lead, they would start just running the football, and they didn't score as much in the second half.
What's your thought on Brock Purdy from watching him from afar?
I got to be honest with you. I'm more surprised that he hasn't hurt the team as a rookie
Right.
quarterback. Forget about where he was drafted. That just adds to the surprise. But the fact that he's a rookie quarterback that was thrust in after the first two quarterbacks went down, and to not feel the pressure or the burden of having to carry the offense, he doesn't seem like he's playing outside of the framework of what they wanted to do. So that's been more of a surprise to me, is that he seems to be composed and he understands what's being asked of him, and he's not trying to do too much. Because sometimes young players can try to do too much, especially if things aren't going well for them. Prime example, that game Sunday, you're playing for an opportunity to go to the NFC Championship game. Your offense isn't necessarily clicking. I didn't see him panic and start trying to do things he shouldn't do that
Right.
he hadn't been doing. So I think he deserves more credit for that and the coaching that he's getting, and his willingness and ability to understand, like, I got a good football team around me. I don't need to try to be the hero. I just need to do what's being asked of me to do. And that, to me, that's impressive, because a lot of young guys get in trouble based on bad habits they developed in college when they were the best player on the team. So for him to be in his first year and to have the spotlight on him like he's had on him, and to not waver from that, even last week, where a young player could have very easily been overtaken by the ramifications of that game. One guy is a 7-year, 8-year vet. This guy's been playing for 8 weeks. One guy threw 2 interceptions. The other guy made plays to win the game. Like, that's impressive to me. Like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that's been impressive to me, that his composure and his poise for a rookie has been very impressive.
Couple last ones, man. We really appreciate your time. You're so awesome, man. It's really appreciate you doing this. Jalen Hurts. I mean, to me, what impresses me is the leg strength. Like, I mean, he's got unbelievable leg strength, and you can see it when he runs in short yardage. You can see it on his stop and start. His movements are very strong with his legs, and obviously he's a great leader. I didn't envision him being this good of a player coming out of Alabama. I'm a little surprised, but then just seeing his maturity, hearing him talk, hearing his kind of the way he's got this calm leadership about him. He's very grounded. Are you surprised that Hurts has gotten this good this fast? And in some ways, these quarterbacks are kind of similar. They were under kind of sold. They weren't high picks, but they really are great. You know, they got a great surrounding cast, and they're the ball comes out on time, with touch, with accuracy, and both are playing highly efficient football. But what can you tell us about Jalen Hurts? How'd you feel about him initially? How do you feel about him now?
Well, it's night and day. It just is.
I believe it. Yeah.
I thought he was a good college quarterback coming out, and I thought his ceiling was now I don't want to throw names out there because it can sort of come off as disparaging, but you get guys that have the ability to start in the league but aren't necessarily franchise quarterbacks, and so that's what I kind of thought Jalen's ceiling would be. He may get an opportunity to start somewhere, but eventually they'll move on to somebody else because the measurables aren't necessarily there. And through his rookie year, you could probably make that argument, and maybe midway, partially through his second year as well. But this offseason, he clearly put the work in. And the one thing you can't measure or you can't see from the outside is his determination and his work ethic. You heard about all the intangibles, but I've I hear about intangibles with a lot of players, and it doesn't
Sure.
necessarily lead to much. This kid deserves so much credit because I don't think most people felt Jalen Hurts could be this level of a player. And that includes the Eagles. that includes the Eagles because I'm still convinced they did not draft Jalen Hurts to be their starting quarterback. They drafted him to be a quality backup quarterback behind Carson Wentz. And that fell apart. And I think Jalen has been a true pleasure surprise for all of us as Eagles fans that it's through his sheer work ethic and determination and hard work that he's turned himself into the player that he is today. Like I said, I thought he was a very good college player. He was a Heisman runner-up.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of good college quarterbacks, though. It doesn't mean they're going to be a good NFL quarterback. And he deserves a lot of credit for the amount of work he's put in to become the player that he is right now. Because it's not just about the physical tools, it's his decision making, it's his poise, it's his ability to be the adult in the room, to be the calming presence for everyone else on the team. I think his ability to inspire his teammates, all of those things is why Jalen played at an MVP level this year. And by the way, he should be the MVP, but I know they're going to rob him of it. But he should be the MVP this year, and he deserves a lot of the credit. And I'll give the staff credit for putting an offense around him that highlights what he does well versus trying to force him into an offense that doesn't accentuate his best skill sets and qualities. They figured out a way to make him to allow him to reach his potential. He put the work in, and they put the scheme in for him. So it's been a great. In this business, we don't like to be wrong.
Right.
This is one of those times. I'm happy I was wrong. I'm happy I was wrong. Yes.
Hey, two last ones. The backs. There's three good backs here. I've always liked Boston Scott. I think he's good. Kenneth Gainwell can catch the ball. Miles Sanders is small, so small that you can't find him, but he runs with power. How does Sirianni utilize his backs? Is there any rhyme or reason to it? Is it quarter by quarter, series by series? One guy's a receiver, one guy's between the tackles, one guy gets to the edges. How do you describe how he uses his three running backs?
Well, Miles is his top back. Miles Sanders is his top back. So he's going to get the bulk of the carries unless you get a situation. Well, even last week he got the bulk of the carries, but Kenny Gainwell had the first 100-yard rushing day since 2006 in the postseason for the Eagles. I didn't even know that until he did it last week. So we hadn't had a 100-yard rusher. I think when the Eagles are committed to the run, they don't care who gets the football. I think they believe in their scheme. They believe in one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in all of football. And here's the other thing, Larry, that's a part of that running game: Jalen Hurts. Because when Jalen Hurts was out, the running game wasn't the same.
Right.
It just wasn't the same. So I think with Jalen being a threat in the running game, it's beneficiary to those three running backs and the offense overall. So the defense can sort of dictate who's going to get the ball, whether it's going to be the running back or the quarterback. Jalen does a great job in the RPO game of deciding when to give the ball to the running back versus keeping it himself. So I can't leave him out of the running game. He got 13 rushing touchdowns and over 700 rushing yards. So he's a big part of the running game as well.
Oh, and he holds that mesh point, and you don't know who has it, and it puts all kinds of, better than anybody, the position you played, it puts a ton of pressure on the defense. If you can hold that mesh point for a second and a half, and it freezes everybody. Then you got to find the ball on every snap. Then you got to get through the trash and make the tackle. I mean, it's just not an easy team to defend, especially when they get a little momentum going. Last one, and we really appreciate your time. Sirianni, I'm watching Giants-Eagles last week. Our Eagles go up 14-0. The camera's on the sidelines, and Sirianni finds the camera and is like, oh. And I thought to myself, Jimmy Johnson didn't do that. I'm thinking Kirby Smart doesn't do that. And then I'm thinking old school guys. I mean, Bill Walsh, Tom Landry, Vince Lombardi would roll over in his grave before he would ever do that. I've never seen in my lifetime an NFL coach mug for the cameras. Some people said they really liked it. Hey, it's personality. He's loose and he's Philly and and I'm sure the Philly fans love him. But there had to be some dialogue on your show about that maneuver. My goodness.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
What were people saying? They loved it.
Well,
they loved it.
Most fans loved it. Most of the fans loved it. Yeah. He's our guy.
Right.
He's our guy. We had us in the media. You get a couple of us that maybe like, you might want to tone it down a little bit. You might want to tone it down a little bit. And I understand that as well. But here's the thing I said today, Larry, about that. I said, if it wasn't authentic, I may have a problem with it. Right? If I thought he was trying to do something for clout or to just draw attention to himself, then I would have a problem with it. But you know what? Not that he usually does that, but that was just another example of him being himself. And that's all it really is. It's good, innocent, excitement and passion and real joy for his players and coaches out there having success. He's different. He's different. a little more energy, a little more excitement. He'll chest bump his guys. He'll do all of that.
Yeah.
I get it. And the funny thing is, I think I'm like, I might be at least 10 years older than he is. I know. I think I'm 10 years older than he is. And so I try not to be the old guy that's complaining about stuff.
Right.
So here's the way I look at it. As long as his players love it and they respond to it, who cares what anybody else thinks on the outside? And well, you know what's most importantly, as long as he's winning football games, nobody really will care about it.
Exactly. All right, I'm picking Niners, but that's just because I'm out here. I think the Eagles are the better team. I think the Niners are maybe the hotter team. I'm going with the hotter teams this weekend. I'm taking the Bengals and the Niners, even though I kind of think Kansas City and Philly are the better teams. But I'm going to roll with the hotter teams. I know you'll be rooting for Cincinnati, right, against Kansas City.
Yeah,
and that's.
But I'm with you though. I think Kansas City wins that game. I do.
Yeah, Kansas City wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kansas City wins that game. I'm going with both home teams.
Okay.
No surprise there. In a close one, 24-22.
Ike, we love chopping it up with you, man, and we wish you nothing but success. Your show is in the afternoon now, right? 2 to 6?
2 to 6. Check this out, Larry, before you let me go.
Can
you believe this is only the second time these two teams have played in the postseason?
Isn't that amazing? They just missed each other all these years.
Yeah.
It's
unbelievable.
The game, one of the most famous games in Niner history was the Joe Montana comeback in Philly against Jerome Brown, Reggie. Joe took a beating, and Joe and Jerry hooked up a bunch of times. I think it was like 4 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter or something like that. It was an amazing.
Believe me, that's come up this week too. That game has come up this week.
And those Buddy Ryan defenses, Seth Joyner.
Yeah.
I mean, Buddy Ryan had some incredible teams. And then I was amazed on the whole Philly Nick Foles Super Bowl. I mean, that was an incredible run. I loved seeing the celebration in Philly. I mean, you guys, the way people reacted to that win was just absolutely pandemonium. It was incredible. You're in a great sports town, Ike, and we really appreciate your work. And thanks for coming on, giving us so much of your time. Enjoy the game this weekend, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on the path somewhere, because big fans of your work, big fans of you as a player, but enjoy your radio work as well, man. So keep it rolling, and thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Larry. Yep, thank you.
Great Ike Reese. Thanks, Ike, stopping by on the Krueg Show. He was fantastic. All right. let's do this. Let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to play some spots right here, and then we'll be back. And then we'll take some video calls coming up next on The Krueg Show.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Coach Emilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh, no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, you know, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
Hey, Pasquale. Dan Cochimilio here for the Krueg Show. Just picked up for the very first time some of your New York-style Italian sausage here at Sam's Club in Arizona. My wife just cooked it, and I'm about to take a bite. Man, this is good. Pasquale, when you winked and said you guaranteed we love it, you're right. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Best sausage I've ever tasted. Thank you, Pasquale.
All right, we are back on the Krueg Show. I always laugh when Dan Cochimilio does that, and I just every time I play it, it makes me laugh. So there you go. All right, so that was cool. We talked to a little football there with Ike Reese from WIP in Philadelphia. Hope you enjoyed that live stream. Let's take a video call or two. We got Bruce hanging out, and we add him to the stream. Hey, Bruce, how are you, man?
All right, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Where are you watching us from?
Well, I'm in Albany, California.
Oh, nice.
You know,
So,
been
you're
a
here in the
long-time
Bay. Okay,
listener.
you're out in the East Bay.
Long-time listener of yours.
Appreciate it, man. What's your
appreciate it.
thought on the live stream? What's your thought on the game? We got a big one coming up Sunday, man, and I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I mean, the one thing I want to think about is, okay, the Eagles have had 2 games. First game last year against Tampa, they got blew out.
Right.
And this year, they blew out the Giants. So how do they deal with adversity? You know, the Niners need to come out early. They need to take the crowd out the game, run the ball, like I kind of mentioned earlier, some jet sweeps, run downhill with McCaffrey, with Juice, with Mason. I mean, just unload on them. I'm a little nervous about it, but I just think Shanahan's been holding some stuff back. I think he's been holding some stuff back, throw some stuff at him. Let's see what the Eagles are made of. The Niners are playing with house money. This is the first game in the playoffs where people aren't expecting them to win. So I'm hoping they start strong, take the crowd out of the game, and make the Eagles, tighten up a little bit to see if Jalen Hurts is built for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to play from ahead. You got to get the lead. You may want to even take the ball first, instead of deferring to the second half. But the thing about the Eagles is so interesting, they're kind of an all or nothing team. If they can run the ball, and then you've got a quarterback who's smart, who can run as well. And then you've got, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They've got weapons. And if they can play action pass and, read option run and hold that mesh point and put all the kinds of pressure on teams and run the ball. And now here comes the quarterback and he's running the ball. And now here comes the running back and he's running the ball. Now it's a quick stop route to Devontae and a little crosser to Goddard. Once they get a lead and they start dominating time of possession and running the ball, I think they're a totally dominant team that can beat almost anybody. Now, if the Niners can get the lead and Jalen Hurts can't have the play action at his disposal and all and now they're 10 points down, they're 14 points down, and Jalen Hurts has to drop back to pass and pass it out from the pocket, and he doesn't really have play action at his disposal because nobody believes they're going to run the ball, and his running is neutralized because that ain't going to be any good. It's all about, can he make plays as a passer from the pocket? I think that's when you got him. I think that's when he's going to struggle as a passer. I think he needs the other elements. I think he needs the play action game to work. I think he needs to be able to run it himself a few times to keep the defense honest. And hardly anybody can do that against Philly, but if you can get a lead against Philadelphia and make him pass it from the pocket and take away the run option, or at least, the play action game, I think he's a quarterback that's totally beatable. The other thing that I think people don't recognize here is that Jalen Hurts has more experience than Brock Purdy, but Jalen Hurts has only played in 2 playoff games, and he's won one and he's lost one. So it's not like you've got a 10-year veteran who's won Super Bowls and Mr. Irrelevant. You've got two quarterbacks who have both started 2 playoff games in their career.
And all the pressures on him. His coach called him Michael Jordan. So,
Right.
like, Brock Purdy
Expectations, too.
doesn't have to play great, and the Niners can still win. Jalen Hurts has to play great. If he doesn't, then the Eagles don't win. And I don't feel like with him, is he going to run around as much because he's compromised. The other thing you kind of been hearing as well is A.J. Brown left the game a little early last game, had a hip injury. They haven't really said anything about it, but, you get something to look out for. I feel that can they play a tight game? The Niners have played tight games. The Niners have experience, like you mentioned earlier. They have a lot of guys that have played in the NFC Championship game. But on the flip side, the other team, the Eagles, aren't as experienced. So Niners just need to start strong. Start strong, put the pressure on them, make them face some adversity, take the crowd out of the game. And, the Niners are proven in that sense. So I'm fired up for it. It's been a long week. Ready for the game.
Yeah, where are you going to watch it? You going to watch it at home, or you?
I'm gonna watch it at home. I don't want to be around. A lot of my friends are Raider fans, or they're Eagles fans this week, or whoever we play. They're Cowboys fans last week, so I'm gonna be with the fam watching it, just getting fired up and looking forward to the Niners coming back with the victory and moving on to the Super Bowl.
Well, I was down there today. I did an interview with Brandon Ayuk. It's up on YouTube. You can check that out. I did one with Ray McLeod yesterday. And the guys are loose. I mean, they're focused. They know they're 1 win from the Super Bowl. But this 49er team likes to go out on the road. Kerry Hyder told me, I think Wednesday, that, truth be told, there's a percentage of guys that prefer to play on the road. And when you watch the 49ers, they almost look more comfortable on the road. Now, this is maybe one of the toughest road venues in all of pro football. The fans are going to be screaming obscenities. It's going to be raucous. But you know what? That us against the world mentality sometimes is exactly what the doctor ordered to get to that level that you need to play at to win a game like this. So I don't know. I mean, a slow start will be disastrous. But if they could get off to a quick start, I kind of like being on the road. I think if for a team as experienced as the 49ers, it's not the worst thing.
I mean, they played at Green Bay last year. The weather was supposed to be good. Played at Green Bay last year. They played at Dallas. So they're tested. Like, they're a tested team. So they're not happy to be here. And I just feel like it's great that all the pressure is on the Eagles. If it was at Levi's, then I think the pressure would be on the Niners because it's like it's at home. You're the number 1 seed. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be doing this. So I'm interested to see that. And I want Kyle hey, Kyle, let's make up for it. Let's make up for it. Everybody,
he's one of the reasons I like the Niners this week. I think Kyle outcoaches Sirianni. I think Kyle understands this moment. He's got a quarterback that he really in lockstep with. They got a tremendous defense. To me, it's if there's one thing that I want to see is I got to see the 49ers defensive line, impact the game. You have to feel the 49er D-line somehow, some way. And then I think the other thing I'd like to see early is I'd love to see the 49ers and Shanahan get the ball in the hands of Ayuk and Debo without putting the ball in the air. So, if you put it in the air, there's always a chance they're going to pick it off. But if you can get the ball to Debo and Ayuk a couple of times and get some big chunk plays, but you can do it on an end around, or you can do it on a double reverse or some kind of a handoff situation, or maybe you get Ayuk in the backfield, or something where maybe it's a short, easy pass or the shovel pass. I like a shovel pass to Debo, a shovel pass to Ayuk. I'd like to see Ray McLeod, Ayuk, and Debo touch the ball and give them big playability that they used to have with Mostert and don't really have without Mostert. I'd like to see those guys touch the ball on those almost like, handoff situations in the backfield.
Especially against a 5-2.
I'd be happy.
Especially against a 5-2. I mean, if they have 5 down line and you get on the outside on a jet sweep or something like that, I mean, you get one block, you could be out of there.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd love to see is I think the crowd's going to be sky high and the Eagles are going to over pursue. And I'd love to see Shanahan and Purdy use that early game excitement and over pursuit to slip back door, double move them, pump and go and see if they could really slip back door for an easy 6 and then try to use their over aggressiveness and over pursuit, especially early in the game, against them. If that could happen, I think that would bode well for the Niners' chances.
And then, also I would think, Shanahan is a throwback. His dad was a coach. He's throwback. I mean, you saw Mike McCarthy with the Dallas chain on. You've seen Sirianni with the chain on and all his antics. Shanahan's not doing that. He's going to have a poker face. So, again, I just kind of think, like, you see all these memes with you saw it last week with McCarthy in the locker room wearing the Dallas chain, like, you're just happy to win. Like, that was the wild card game. You had Sirianni happy to be in the NFC Championship wearing chains. I mean, I get it. It's a new age, but at the same time, it's like the Niners could win the Super Bowl 60-0. I don't think Shanahan's going to be in the locker room with a chain on. He might dance a little bit. Come on, man.
Did you see Sirianni mugging for the cameras? It was 14-0 in the first quarter. I mean, he better not do that. If he tries to do that, I mean, the 49ers will literally rise up just on that alone. There's too much pride in that room. I'll say this. The 49ers, you could argue, have the better roster, have more talent. I think Philly's got a really great offensive line. I think they got a really great defensive line. But I think the Niners linebackers are the where this game's going to tilt. I think the Niner linebackers are going to cause turnovers. I think the Niner linebackers are going to shut down the run and make Philly one-sided. I think the Niner linebackers are going to be what Philly's talking about when this game's over.
Yeah, and Aziz, it's the other guys. When you think about, like, big games, it's always, like, the other guys that you don't really depend on that make those key plays.
Yep.
That's why guys sign these big contracts in the offseason. The Larry Allen's making big plays because the other guys, Larry Allen in the Super Bowl, he gets a pick. The Raiders pay him a boatload because of the Super Bowl. And he's the other guy that made a play. So the Azizes, like you say, the Danny Grays, who was it?
Ray.
Mason.
Like, I'd love to see Mason inside the 5.
Physical team. Go at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Bruce, we'll let you go, man. Thanks for chiming in and appreciate you supporting the channel. And is this have you checked us out before? Have you checked out our shows before?
Yeah, I've checked you out a few times. The late night show. The late night show was good. Definitely, appreciate the knowledge. You've been in the area for a while. Not really you're throwback. Like I say, you're a throwback guy. You can get animated, but at the same time, you kind of keep it professional. So I definitely appreciate that.
Well, man, I appreciate you. Check me out. I'm on with Low Neal before the game on 95.7 The Game. So I think we're on probably, what is it? Is it 12:30 here? Is it 12 o'clock start or?
Yeah, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. So we're probably on 10 a.m. So check me out Sunday morning at 10 a.m. with the great Lorenzo Neal on 95.7 The Game.
So you guys are going out there?
No, we'll be here. We'll be in studio.
Okay.
But me and Low Neal will be chopping it up, talking a little bit about the matchup for a couple hours on Sunday. So it should be good.
Nice, man.
All right, Bruce. Hey, man, have a great rest of your night. I'm going to go get some dinner and go see the family. But thanks for jumping in, man. I love the video calls, and thanks for jumping in. Anytime I'm live and we put the video call chat in there, jump in, man. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you.
Have a good one. The great Bruce from Albany out in the East Bay. I've been to Albany since we used to go to Golden Gate Fields all the time. We used to head out to Golden Gate. Those were some good days. Watch the ponies. All right, that does it for us. Hope you enjoyed the live stream with Ike Reese. And hope you have a phenomenal night. And we've got more straight ahead on the Krueg Show. Tomorrow night we'll come to you after Warrior basketball. and I believe Cyrus Satsis will be in the house. Kylan Mills will be in the house from Cron 4 after the Warrior game tomorrow night. So check us out tomorrow night. We'll probably do a couple more live streams getting you ready for Niners and Eagles tomorrow. But and also go to my YouTube channel and check out my interview today of Brandon Ayuk. Also caught up with Diamador Lenore and Spencer Burford just in the last couple days. So check that out. The live interviews from the 49er locker room that are posted now on YouTube. And if you're one of the people in the chat, hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, that helps the algorithm and helps more people find our show. And if you hit subscribe, it will just alert you every time we're doing a live stream of any kind. So hit like and subscribe and help us get to 12,000 subs on the Krueg Show. A couple in the chat before we get out of here. We got this one from Dusty Gold. Niners have been here before. Kyle should show more motion that can confuse this Eagles defense. You know, that's a great point. I actually have the numbers here. The Eagles pass defense with no pre-snap motion, number 1 in EPA per play. Eagles pass defense, when there is pre-snap motion, they fall to 22nd in the NFL in EPA per play. So they're about to play a 49ers team that is number 1 in the NFL in terms of how often Kyle Shanahan uses pre-snap motion. And so you're going to see a lot of pre-snap motion from the 49ers. And that, I think, is going to bother the Eagles defense to some degree. So I hope you enjoyed the live stream and check us out with more straight ahead. Go Niners. Hopefully they'll get it done on Sunday. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. Once again, if you're in there, hit like and subscribe and support the Krueg Show.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah. We ain't never fall back.